Go.
Hi, my name is Ansley, and today we're going to be talking about how do we stop the epidemic of sleepy teens. Of course, the best way to start off a persuasive presentation is by a meme, but this is honestly how it feels like. We all know that teenagers need 8.5 to 10 hours of sleep, but yet we're starting schools before 8:30, and that makes life hard. The National Sleep Foundation says that only 15% of the students in the United States are getting the recommended 8.5 to 10 hours of sleep. If we do the math, that means out of Bingham Academy's 116 kids, roughly 18 are getting the recommended amount of sleep each night. I know I'm not getting the recommended amount of sleep, trying to finish presentations like this. The best thing that can be done for our students is to move school start times back, and it will help them tremendously. Today I'm going to cover the relationship between teens and sleep and how sleep deprivation affects teenagers. I'm also going to give an example of a solution to help with this epidemic of sleepy teens. And then I'm also going to cover the benefits of moving school start times to later in the day. So teens and sleep, it's a love-hate relationship. For the most part, teenagers don't have control over when they go to sleep. Once teenagers hit puberty, there is a shift in circadian rhythms, or the body's biological clocks, and it makes the teenagers feel like they're not tired until around 11 on average, according to Wendy Troxel in a TED talk called Why Should Schools Start Later for Teens? An article called The Teen Sleep Loss Epidemic, What Can Be Done by Natalie Bryant and Rebecca Gomez calls the shift in circadian rhythms a phase delay. In that same article, it talks about how older adolescents have a pronounced delay in the release of melatonin compared to younger kids or adults. There are also plenty of other reasons that teenagers don't get the sleep they need that aren't biologically related. Many teenagers have jobs that keep them late at work. Being a teenager, you can't really get a job outside of fast food. Fast food places are open late most times. Another reason that teenagers aren't getting the sleep they need is because of extracurriculars. Here at Bingham Academy, it's not as present, but in other schools, there are lots of sports practices and things like that that are keeping kids late. And then the final one that I think is the most, the bane of my existence is homework. On the average, high school teachers are giving about 3.5 hours of homework per week. If you do the math, and a student has 7 classes, that means that there's 24.5 hours of homework per week. Now at Bingham Academy, that's a little bit different, but I feel like it's about the same. According to the National Sleep Foundation, one consequence of not getting enough sleep is increased or decreased learning ability. In the article, the Teen Sleep Epidemic, What Can Be Done? It references a study done which found that teenagers that were getting 25 minutes less sleep than kids that were getting A's were getting B's, C's, and D's. The article also brings up the point of kids and driving, which is really prevalent. You get the mix of teenagers who have just gotten their license and are sleep deprived, and it's a recipe for disaster. In our parking lot, it is super important that we have teenagers that can drive to the best of their ability, since we have businesses surrounding us and many, many cars. Wendy Troxel states in her TEDx talk that I mentioned earlier that chronic sleep deprivation can also lead to obesity, an increased probability of substance abuse, and increase in depression and suicide. And really, that's just the start of all of the consequences. To remedy this lack of sleep, most students are reaching for caffeine and obscene amounts of it. As Wendy Troxel states, we have created a generation of tired but wired teenagers. She also talks about how the parts of the brain that are in charge of higher order thinking processes, like good reasoning and judgment skills, are impacted greatly by sleep deprivation. So one way to solve this epidemic of sleep deprivation is to start schools later in the day. In that same TEDx talk, Wendy Troxel says schools should not be starting before 8:30 a.m. So here's our bell schedule. You guys are all really familiar with it. We start at 8, which isn't super bad compared to the other schools in the United States. But more can be done. So this is my proposed schedule. It is really just shifting everything back a half an hour. Now, it is tough to do this. We have to bus the elementary schoolers and the middle schoolers. And my proposal to fix that is to literally switch the busing for the elementary schoolers and the high schoolers. It is shown that younger kids have that normal melatonin release in their body, so they are used to going to bed earlier and waking up earlier. So maybe their schools can start at 8 and ours can start at 8:30, and we can just switch the busing. So, for example, Blackfoot High School, they start their day at 8:20. It works really well. Another example is Bellingham District in Washington State. According to a news article for Bellingham District titled "Bellingham School Have Changed to Give Teens More Time to Sleep In. Here's how it's going. The teachers report that their students are more prepared to learn and they're getting better grades, and families are reporting better moods and just it's better overall. Like I said, one of the biggest cons is the logistics of everything. You're shifting your schedule back half an hour. Parents are having to drop their kids and pick their kids up later than normal, and they may have other kids and other conflicts. And kids also have jobs, which is a conflict, and it's not easy. And these concerns are valid, but they're something that will have to be worked through. The benefits far outweigh the costs in this case. This change is possible for our schools. We just have to work out some tweaks, and we just have to figure things out. Like I said, the greatest thing we can do for our students is move school back about a half an hour. It will help them make better choices and do better overall. In this speech, I talked about the relationship of teens and sleep and the solution to the sleep deprivation, how sleep deprivation affects teens, and some of the pros and cons of that. Like I said earlier, sleep deprivation is affecting almost every teen in this school. A 30-minute difference would be huge. Yes, it would be a transition, but it's worthwhile. This change is something that can happen as soon as next semester or next year. So I invite you to notice the teenagers in the classes who are feeling really sleepy and bring up these facts at your next board meeting. Thanks.